Bariza charged at the men, but was quickly overwhelmed and brought to his knees. Sabi had always harbored a fondness for cats, yet she had never come face to face with one so ferocious. The small ones reminded her of Fifi, her own cat. Despite being conscious of the adult lions in the cage right next to her, aggressively clawing at the iron bars, she started looking around to make sure the cubs had warm blankets before hastily leaving to find some for the little ones. Observing Sabi in her haste, hurriedly rushing from the entrance of the pit, Princess Adanna, the boater's daughter, and her younger sisters shared a sinister laugh. However, their amusement turned into surprise as Sabi swiftly returned with a pile of blankets she had found in the cottage around the corner. "Has she gone mad?" the princess exclaimed as they all watched in amazement at how Sabi ran back into the lion's pit. Fortunately for her, it wasn't feeding time, or the lions would have been roaming freely in the pit. She then gently placed the blankets in a basket not far from the cage where the older lions were kept. Sabi decided she wanted to milk some goats for the cubs to drink, but the cubs refused to drink milk from a bowl. Recalling a similar problem with Fifi, she decided to punch a hole in a skin bottle she found. "I will come back tomorrow if I can. Your names shall be Kimber and Beru," giggling as the cubs jumped all over her. Tari, a palace maiden, trembled with fear, having witnessed Princess Adanna instruct Sabi to feed the lions. Meanwhile, Mama Omero looked everywhere for Sabi. "My lady, Princess Adanna sent her into the lion's pit." Omero could not believe her ears. She could only imagine the look on Chief Bariza's face if she had to tell him that they lost the young girl to the lions. Before she could finish her thought, Sabi walked in, humming to herself as if nothing had happened. Omero quickly grabbed her by the shoulder. Examining her for cuts or bruises, Sabi wondered what the fuss was about. "The wise will first use their feet to measure the depth of the river before plunging in, but you go head first. From now on, you must come to me with any errand given to you from anyone in the palace. Do you understand?" Sabi was not new to handling bullies, but the moment she heard those lions roar, she knew she had walked straight into a trap. But the palace was a completely new environment for her. Grateful that she has Omero on her side, she agreed. Back in Wari Jaffa, Prince Benigo consulted with his advisors to put everything in place. He then dispatched his men, disguised as farmers, bearing his signet ring and a message from Lebaroke, Benny's husband, to bring her to Wari Jaffa so he could meet his daughter-in-law for the first time. So, as the spies made their way to Bomadi, each convincingly disguised, King Mirbaka also received news of Prince Lebaroke's return. This would have posed a major problem for Mirbaka, and Prince Benigo was fully aware of the danger surrounding his son, for his late father, King Abasiama, had a deep affection for Lebaroke, considering him the rightful successor. This ultimately fueled resentment in the sons of the royal house, as they all felt deprived of their inheritance. Because custom forbids a man who had lost any of his members from becoming king, Mirbaka laughed hysterically upon learning that Lebaroke had returned with just one of his arms. "If only grandfather could see you now. A wounded fox, once exposed, leaves a trail of humiliation. My cousin is better off licking his wounds in peace. On second thought, send him a gold crest and some royal garments so that he can properly present himself before me. In 7 days' time, I will celebrate the prince's return to my realm." Having concluded that King Mirbaka had no reason to feel threatened, Prince Benigo sits in expectation, awaiting news from the spies about the situation of his granddaughter, Sabi. In the palace, Sabi proved to be a quick learner, mastering the skill of thread weaving and finding comfort in her regular visits to the lions. The minders noted that the lions would growl at any other person, even at the king. They would allow only Sabi to get close to them. This did not escape the attention of the Bota, as his daughters had already reported the strange encounter with Nanima, the lion girl. 7 days had passed, and the time had come for the usual festivals in the palace. Everyone was in good spirits, including King Dabota, so all the high-end merchants were allowed into the palace grounds to present rare items from all parts of Nubia and beyond. This was a time to act, and act fast. And so the spies then made their way towards Dabota's palace, one disguised as a merchant, offering expensive royal beauty items all the way from Egypt. The other two arrived as peddlers of exotic animals for the king to add to his collection, a hobby Dabota enjoyed. Having mapped out the palace grounds and observed the watchmen, the spies had a clear mission: infiltrate the palace, approach Dabota when he's vulnerable, and then unleash the wild animals, creating chaos, providing an opportunity for them to discreetly transport Sabi to safety. With careful accuracy, everything unfolded according to plan. The terrifying screams echoing from the chaos served as a signal for the supposed beauty merchant that the time to move had arrived. Having found Sabi, he quickly delivered the urgent message, telling her that he was sent by her father and grandfather to rescue her, and that they had to act immediately. Remembering her discussion with Omero to report anything unusual in the palace, Sabi hesitated. But on the other hand, this man holding a note from her father with his handwriting clearly did not belong in the palace. Overwhelmed with conflicting thoughts, she reluctantly agreed. In a haste, he placed her into his cart, swiftly wheeling her amid the growing commotion. Like every other chief, Bariza was present at the festival, but he sensed that there was more to the commotion, and so he started to investigate the perimeters. And sure enough, something caught his attention. He observed that every departing merchant was carrying goods, but two individuals stood out as they left empty-handed, which seemed quite unusual. Deciding to follow them, he discovered that they met up with another man wheeling a cart, with Sabi emerging from it. Unaware of their identities, Bariza charged at the men, but was quickly overwhelmed and brought to his knees. "You shall kneel in the presence of the princess," one of the men commanded. Before the spies could make a move to strike him, she ordered them to stop immediately. Princess? Sabi was confused, and so was Bariza. After all, she was just the farmer's daughter he brought to Dabota. Despite her confusion, there was one thing she was certain about. She would no longer allow anyone else to get hurt on her behalf. "You listen to me. I will not take another step until you tell me everything."